global government news. Today is Friday, February 4th, 2011, and I'm Darko. Welcome everyone to this economic news bulletin. To start off with, plug in my website, www.ggnonline.com. That's ggnonline.com. You can check out the most recent poll. The recent political upheaval in the Middle East will most likely result in a positive outcome for most people in the region, or a negative outcome for most people in the region, or whatever the powers that be desire, or you're not sure. As of right now, it's majority of people at 47% saying a negative outcome for most people in the region. Okay, we're going to start out with commodities, and we have basically the S&P at 661, and the Bloomberg's UBS at 1,692. And we'll go down here, and in the energy sector, all of the prices were down as far as natural gas. And we moved down, and the biggest ones that I saw were corn up $16, and canola up $1.90, and then moved down to copper. Copper has been on fire lately, mostly due to supply issues. It's up $3.50, and then silver was up 38 cents. But we have gold that was trading at $1,348, almost $1,349 per ounce, and it was down almost $4.10. So, okay, now we're going to move to oil. Oil breaks through $103 on Egyptian crisis, and this was from February 3rd. It says, and world oil prices extended their gains in Asian trade Thursday after a political crisis in Egypt erupted into violence. At least 2 people were killed. Many were wounded overnight in gunfire. And said the New York's main futures contract, light sweet crude, for March climbed 65 cents to $91.51 a barrel. And we'll cover some more news. As far as oil goes, crude retreats below $89, and this was February 4th at 2:08 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Crude futures tumbled below $89 a barrel as traders worried about holding positions through the weekend if Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak relinquishes power. Light sweet crude for March delivery recently traded $1.72, or 1.9% lower, at $88.82 a barrel on the New York Stock Exchange. Here we go. Oil again. Oil turns higher as worries over Egypt persist. And this is actually before oil prices rose on Wednesday as worries persisted that the upheaval in Egypt could spread across the Middle East and North Africa. And luckily, did curtail under $90 a barrel, so that's good, and definitely under 100. But it says here oil prices higher on economic outlook, and this is February 4th. Oil prices are finishing off a second week of gains Friday. And it says, as the latest rounds of jobs data is expected to offer hope that the U.S. economy is improving, but it's not. Analysts believe the non-farm payroll jobs increased by around 146,000 workers during January, according to a survey of economists. And it says here, 1 barrel of light sweet crude oil scheduled for March delivery currently trades at $90.97 on New York Stock Exchange. This is up 43 cents from Thursday's settle price at $90.54 a barrel. The price was as high as $91.20 in earlier trades. So hopefully that gives you a pretty good background as far as the oil goes. U.S. gasoline at the pump may rise to $3.50 a gallon by May. This obviously does not shock me at all. Says, I've been reading articles basically where analysts are saying that we're looking at $5 a gallon by 2012. U.S. gasoline at the pump may rise 13% by May as crude oil in New York tops $100 barrel, and recovering economy boosts fuel demand, according to analysis surveyed by Bloomberg News. Then we have the dollar. The dollar rallies as U.S. jobless rates slip. And then we have this. Gold hits a 2-week high after U.S. payrolls data. Gold rose to a 2-week high on Friday after fluctuating in the wake of mixed U.S. payrolls data, and was on track for its full weekly gain this year as investors' appetite for assets seen as a higher risk wavered. And then we'll move on to food prices, which is probably the highlight of my news bulletin. Record food prices stir global worries. The UN Food and Agricultural Organization has warned against the ongoing hike in the world food prices amid supply shortages and the political unrest in the Arab world. In the latest update of its food price index, FAO warned on Thursday that the global food prices rose for the 7th month in a row in January, saying that the trend may continue. It says here, world food prices hit record high, says UN agency. World food prices reached their highest level ever recorded in January and are set to keep rising for months, the UN Food Agency said on Thursday, warning that the hardest hit countries could face turmoil. Rising food prices have been cited among the driving forces behind the recent popular revolts in North Africa, including the uprising in Egypt and the toppling of Tunisia's longtime president. But a lot of that, yeah, they do have their own concerns, but a lot of that I think is being brought on and influenced by intelligence agencies for whatever reasons they want. And, that's just a byproduct. The rising food prices has been going on for the past, 3 or 4 years. U.S. cotton rises for third day as mills rush to buy. And, this is pretty crazy. Overseas mill buying stokes rallied a record top. Cotton futures up almost 25% since mid-January. And says U.S. cotton futures jumped for the third straight day on Wednesday, settling up the daily limit as Asian mills fueled the rally on average volume. The British Airways company has increased its fuel surcharge for the second time in 2 months, meaning that a family of 4 has to pay £704 on a return long-haul economy flight. So not looking good for air travel. Tyson Foods profits surges on higher meat prices. This is something that I've covered also. The meat prices have been going up. And it says here, meat exports and higher pork prices helped Tyson Foods Incorporated post a much larger quarterly profit. It surprised Wall Street and sent shares to an 8-month. And it says pork was unreal. They are generating unheard of margins in pork. Pork is really what drove it. Tyson sold pork at 23% higher prices in the quarter. Beef prices were up 16.4%, and the volume chicken sales was up 8.4%, although at slightly lower prices. Wall Street, little change after jobs report. And we'll move down here. Stocks were a little change on Friday after January's U.S. unemployment report showed that the jobless rate fell to a 20-month low, but the number of newly created jobs barely grew. And we have here stocks say hello to 1,200 again. Then we'll move on. Treasuries tumble on jobs data. Treasuries sank for a 5th straight session, as some investors took the unexpected drop in the jobless rate as a good sign for the economic outlook, even as U.S. employers added fewer jobs than forecasted last month. So you see a lot of double speak going on here, not really telling you whether it's good or bad, just kind of leaning towards everything's good and hunky-dory. So just like I said, go back to sleep. Bonds are getting crushed after this morning's awesome unemployment report. And it says here, this morning's awesome jobs report, which saw the unemployment rate collapse from 9.4% to 9.0%, is taking its toll on the bond market. Obviously, investors see more growth ahead and less reason to wrap up their money in securities with crappy yields. Check out the 30-year bond futures. And here you go. They're bottoming out at, 117. So keep moving here. We have Treasuries fall, dollar gains, stocks fluctuate after jobs data. Treasuries fell for a 5th day, and the dollar strengthened after the U.S. unemployment rate unexpectedly dropped to the lowest level since April of 2009. U.S. equities fluctuated as the report was not strong enough to extend the biggest rally since 1936. U.S. economy, manufacturing grows by most since 2004. Construction spending in the U.S. unexpectedly fell to a decade low. And we have Europe manufacturing growth quickens to 9-month high. And then we'll look to this. Asian earnings swell from U.S. consumer spending and China's economic growth. Beijing and Shanghai record robust economic growth in 2010. China's capital city, Beijing, and economic hub Shanghai both realized nearly double-digit growth in 2010, showing powerful economic momentum. Davos, IMF's Lipsky, IMF board to discuss SDR expansion Friday. So talking about special drawing rights. The board of the International Monetary Fund will discuss a possible expansion of the basket of currencies that compose the special drawing rights. IMF Deputy Managing Director John Lipsky said on Friday. And National Inflation Association preview of America in 2015, talking about Egypt. The rioting and looting currently taking place in Egypt is primarily a result of massive food inflation and shows what all major cities in the United States will look like in around 2015 due to the Federal Reserve's 0% interest rates and quantitative easing to infinity. On December 16, 2009, National Inflation Association named Time Magazine's 2009 Person of the Year, Ben Bernanke, our villain of the year, saying he created, quote, unprecedented amounts of inflation in unprecedented ways, and when it costs $20 for a gallon of milk in a few years, Americans will have nobody to thank more than Bernanke. And you can check that out. All the links will be posted as usual in the video's description. So just go down there and check that out. If you're not in YouTube or if you're on my website or another website, you may not be able to view those links. So just try to find the link to the actual YouTube video and you go in there and you can check out all the links. There'll usually be about 30 article headline links. And I take a lot of time putting those links in there, so I hope that people are checking them out. It's basically I'm trying to create an archive of news. Starting in 2009, so that people can look back and see all the crap that was going on, and it was there for people to see. So, national debt jumped another $105 billion in January. The federal debt increased by $105 billion in January, according to the U.S. Treasury Department's, jumping from $14 trillion at the close of business on December 31st to $14 trillion. And keep moving here. Obama's proposed spending freeze would add $3.8 trillion to the national debt, GOP says. And President Bolsonaro's proposed 5-year spending freeze on domestic discretionary spending would increase the national debt by $4 trillion, according to analysis by Republicans on the Senate Budget Committee. And of course, you have no say in the national debt or any of the spending, right? You don't. You're a slave. And therefore, you don't have any responsibility to repay it, but they'll make you think that you do. Says here eventually, maybe they'll have debtor's prison, maybe they'll won't allow citizens to leave the United States until, you pay off your, $40,000 a year towards the government spending. That's bull crap, man. It's like you don't have any say in it whatsoever. So, insolvency figures reach a new record, and that's the big scam. I just want to say it. That's the big scam, besides income tax, right? Is that you have no say in anything that goes as far as government spending. So it all goes towards defense contractors. I think we all know that. We try to kid ourselves that it doesn't, but that's what it is. And so as austerity measures, take hold, and a lot of actual useful programs that taxpayers pay for are going to be gutted. And they'll show stories about, the cops are losing money, and the fire department's going to shut down, and all this other stuff, and education. What are we going to do? We gotta keep the education, and educate and indoctrinate the young minds. So, anyways, insolvency figures reach new record. More than 135,000 people in England and Wales were declared insolvent during 2010. According to figures released by the Insolvency Service, the highest level since records began in 1960. Beware of lurking North Africa and EU bank runs. And it says this is a warning to prepare for potential stealth bank runs cascading from North Africa and Ireland through to EU regional banking centers or cartels. Stealth bank runs are the unrecognized and perilous serpent lurking presently below the European financial surface. They prey on slower-moving, archaic bond vigilantes and anyone else swimming in these dangerous, uncharted waters. So, it goes in here and talks about it. It says the Council on Foreign Relations just released a surprising report entitled Sovereign Credibility and Bank Runs. And it says here, in the midst of the financial crisis of 2008, governments helped to prevent bank runs by guaranteeing bank debts. Yet as sovereign solvency itself becomes an issue, such guarantees quickly lose their value. If Ireland provides a rule of thumb, bank runs can be expected once sovereign credit default swaps yields past 3%. And they're talking about sneaky bank runs. Basically, what they're going to do is they're going to say they're having online issues and you won't be able to access your account online. And the banks may actually be closed due to internet or online infrastructure issues. Basically, it's a bank run, and they've already had them in the past year or two. Most of the major banks here in the United States, like Chase and Wells Fargo, and that they've already had bank runs. They call them, like I said, online, having online issues. So. Stiglitz says disastrous austerity plans in Europe risk growth slowdown. And we'll go to this one. This bank executive took TARP money, never paid it back, and now he'll get 18 million if he's fired. So, and they're talking about this individual right here, CEO Mark Furlong from Marshall and Isley Corp. So you can join us in part 2 of this economic news bulletin. This is GGN and I'm Darko. Thank you.